Hello everyone, we are looking at renal physiology, how the kidneys work. So we'll start by looking at the kidney structure and the overview of kidney functions. So remember, this is physiology, so we'll be biased towards the physiological principles, like how the kidneys function. Okay, we won't very much dwell on the anatomy, the structures. We'll dwell much on how the kidneys function. So the kidneys, um, they are a pair of organs. Okay, they lie in the posterior wall of the abdomen behind the peritoneum on either side of the vertebral column. Okay, if you remember a peritoneum, this is a serous membrane lining the cavity of the abdomen and covering the abdominal organs. So the adult kidney weighs about 115 to about 170 grams, and these are the dimensions, approximately 11.63 centimeters. So when the key word here is the kidney, it's behind the peritoneum. So we can call that the kidney is a retroperitoneal organ. Okay, it's a retroperitoneal organ. It's not found within the peritoneum. So retroperitoneal organs includes the kidneys, the rectum, the pancreas, the colon, the ureters, and many other retroperitoneal organs. However, the peritoneal organs, or also called the intraperitoneal, are within the peritoneum. Example, the liver, the stomach, the gallbladder, and the spleen. Okay, so the kidneys are located outside the peritoneal membrane. If you want to remember organs that are within the retroperitoneal organ, or organs that are retroperitoneal, you can use a mnemonic code SAD Parker. SAD Parker. Okay, this is a mnemonic which can help you to remember organs which are retroperitoneal. S is the suprarenal glands, which are actually on top of the kidneys. And then A is the aorta. So the aorta is not found within the intraperitoneal. The aorta, or the inferior vena cava. D is for duodenum. Part of the duodenum is found outside the peritoneal, except the proximal 2 centimeter, okay, called the duodenal cup. There's also P is for pancreas. This is the retroperitoneal organ, except the tail. And then we have U, the ureter, C, the colon, K is the kidney, which we're talking about, E is the esophagus, and R the rectum. So these are retroperitoneal organs. Okay. Now, what are the functions of the kidneys? The functions of the kidneys, which is what we are interested in, we can just run through these functions before we start describing the mechanism of function step by step. They excrete waste products such as urea, creatinine, and bilirubin. They excrete waste product of metabolism such as urea, creatinine, and bilirubin. We know that urea is a product of amino acid metabolism. We know that creatinine is the end product of metabolism in the muscles, and bilirubin It's a waste product of hemoglobin metabolism, etc., and many other waste products such as uric acids. Okay. If you recall, urea formation involves the conversion of amino acids in the protein by the liver to ammonia. Okay, but our body does not handle ammonia, and the mammals do not really handle ammonia, so it is very toxic. So it has to be converted into urea, that is in mammals. But in animals such as fish, the ammonia is immediately removed. But in animals such as birds, the ammonia is converted to uric acid. Okay. Just on this concept, urea, because it's very important, there's what you call blood urea nitrogen. Okay. So then we need the normal values of urea, blood urea nitrogen is 7 to 30 milligrams per deciliter in blood. And the normal values of creatinine is 0.7 to 1.2 milligrams per deciliter of blood. So these values are high in condition where there is kidney failure or urinary tract obstruction. Okay, because we know the kidney is an organ that should remove these wastes. So if these wastes begin to accumulate in the body, it means there's a problem with the kidneys. Okay. The kidneys also maintains water balance by formation of what we call urine, either dilute urine or concentrated urine. If dilute urine is produced, it means there was too much water in the body. If concentrated urine is produced, it means there is little water in the body, so it has to be conserved. We'll look at those concepts. And then the kidney is also involved in maintenance of electrolytes. Electrolytes, these are substances that are dissolved in aqueous environment, in water, in aqueous solutions such as sodium, potassium, calcium, bicarbonates, chlorides, sulfates. These are electrolytes. So the kidneys ensures that these substances are regulated. For example, if there is too much sodium in the blood, the kidney will ensure that more sodium is eliminated, is excreted out of the body. Again, if there's little sodium in the body, the kidney will ensure that it will increase sodium reabsorption. So every little sodium passing through the renal tubules will be reabsorbed just to maintain electrolyte balance. The kidneys are also involved in homeostasis of what we call acid-base balance. We know that the normal pH is between 7.35 to 7.45. And the major electrolyte contributing to, or the major atom contributing to pH is hydrogen ions and bicarbonates. Okay, so it balances the levels of these substances, hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. Apart from that, the kidneys plays a very important role in hematopoietic functions. Okay, it produces erythropoietin. It also produces thrombopoietin. Okay, so erythropoietin is an important stimulating factor for erythropoiesis. Okay, and then there's also thrombopoietin. It stimulates the production of thrombocytes. Now, if you remember, erythropoietin is also produced by the bone marrow. These are involved in production of red blood cells. Okay. And then the other functions of the kidneys, the endocrine function of the kidneys We've said already it produces erythropoietin, thrombopoietin. We've said that. And then there's also renin. Renin is produced by the juxtaglomerular cells of the kidneys. And the functions of renin is to cause an increase in blood pressure. We're going to look at that later on. And also, it restores the perfusion pressure in the kidneys. What we mean is that whenever blood flowing to the kidneys has reduced, maybe somebody was involved in an accident due to hemorrhage, renin will be produced. The whole purpose of renin is to activate the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Okay. And also there will be vasoconstriction of the blood vessels, resulting into increase in blood pressure. When the blood pressure increases, what will happen is that blood flow to the kidneys will also increase. Do not confuse that renin produced by the GIT. That one has double N. Okay, that renin is mainly involved with coagulation of milk, and usually abundant in children that entirely depend on the milk in their diet, the newborns. So this one is a proteolytic enzyme, the renin, which we discussed under GIT. It is also called chymosin. But this renin we are talking about, this renin is produced by the kidneys, okay, by the juxtaglomerular cells, and it participates in regulation of blood pressure. We are going to look at those mechanisms. There's also 1,25 dihydrocholecalciferol, also called calcitriol. This is also produced by the kidneys, specifically the proximal tubular cells of the kidneys. If you look at the nephron, it has parts. Now the proximal tubules produces 1,25 dihydrocholecalciferol. This one is a product of liver and renal hydroxylation of vitamin D3. And it's one of the most active metabolites of vitamin D. Okay. So it stimulates calcium uptake by small intestines. And we know that calcium is very important in many physiological processes, such as mineralization of new bones and triggering exocytosis. Okay. Apart from 1,25 dihydrocholecalciferol, there is also prostaglandins. These are vasodilatory lipids. Okay, so they increase renal blood flow and glomerular filtration rate. So both the nephrons, which are found in the cortex of the kidneys, and the medullary nephron, they are able to produce prostaglandins. We'll look at these later on. Okay, the kidneys is also involved in regulation of blood pressure. We know that the normal blood pressure is 120/80. Okay, so the kidneys is important in regulation of blood pressure. Long-term regulation of arterial blood pressure by two ways. It regulates the volume of the extracellular fluids and through the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Okay, so problems, any failure of kidneys will affect the normal blood pressure. We'll look at the connection. Apart from that, the kidneys is also involved in regulation of blood calcium levels. Okay. Kidneys play a role in regulation of blood calcium levels by activating 1,25 dihydrocholecalciferol into vitamin D. And then vitamin D is necessary for absorption of calcium from the intestine. Okay, so these are the functions of the kidneys. Okay, in short, the kidneys plays a very low in homeostasis. So in these lectures, we are going to look at the various mechanisms. Like regulation of blood calcium, we'll look at how does it regulate blood calcium levels. In regulation of blood pressure, how does it regulate? Okay. Now, the kidneys also, they are like filters. What do they filter? They filter the blood flowing to it. Okay, that's why there's a very important parameter called the glomerular filtration rate. It measures the amount of blood or plasma that is filtered by the kidneys per minute. Okay? It measures the amount of blood that is filtered by the kidney per minute. So there is about 150, some books say 120 mils of blood flowing. There's 150 mils of plasma filtered by the kidneys per minute. Okay. It's just important to know that. There's also about 1,200 mils of blood flowing to each kidney, which is 20 to 25% of the cardiac output. It goes to the kidneys. And then there is also 660 mils per minute of plasma, which is presented to the kidneys. Okay. Now, it is just important to know this blood supply. The kidney gets its blood from the aorta. From the aorta, it enters through the renal artery. From the renal artery, the blood moves into the segmental artery. From the segmental artery, blood moves into the interlobar artery. From interlobar artery into the arcuate artery. From the arcuate artery into the cortical radiate artery. From the cortical radiate artery into these afferent arterioles. Okay, these are the actual blood vessels that constrict. These are under neural control. They are also under hormonal control, the afferent arterioles. So from the afferent arterioles into what we call the glomerulus, which are found within the Bowman's capsule. There are tiny capillaries within the Bowman's capsule, which are called glomerulus. Okay. So around the glomerulus, we know that capillaries, that's where there's exchange of materials. At any capillary bed, there's exchange of materials. So what will come out from the glomerulus is plasma. It will enter the renal tubules. What will remain in the glomerular capillaries, these are blood cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells. These big molecules that cannot penetrate the capillaries. Even plasma proteins will remain in the glomerular capillaries. From there, they'll move into the efferent arterioles. Efferent arterioles, these are also regulated. Okay, they can either constrict or dilate, depending on the body's needs. From the efferent arterioles, there is also this called the peritubular capillaries and vasa recta. Okay, from the peritubular capillaries enters into the corticoradiate vein, from there into the arcuate vein, interlobar vein, renal vein, inferior vena cava to the heart. Okay, so that's why it's the double circulation. From the heart, it's pumped back into the aorta. So it goes round and round. As it is doing that, blood is being filtered. Blood is being filtered. So the kidneys has two capillary beds. There's the glomerulus capillaries and the peritubular capillaries. So we are going to see that these are involved very much in secretion. Okay, secretion is the movement of substances from from blood into the tubules, renal tubules. Okay, so we're going to look at substances that are secreted and substances that are not secreted. There's also reabsorption taking place here. Okay, so this is the blood vessels of the kidneys. So you can form a mnemonic just to help you remember the order of blood flow. But what we are trying to say is that blood flow to the kidneys is through the renal artery. And blood flow out of the kidneys, it's through the renal vein. The last part is what we call the nerve supply to the kidneys. The nerve supply to the kidneys. Okay. So this is our spinal cord. These are ganglia. So the one that has been extensively researched is the sympathetic nerve supply. There is no parasympathetic. We don't know the function of the parasympathetic nerve supply to the kidneys. But the sympathetic nerve supply, we know its function. Okay? It originates from the celiac ganglion. Okay? If you remember, a ganglion is just a group of cell bodies that merge together. Okay? And they form synapses. So, it comes from the celiac ganglion via the sympathetic nervous system. If you can check from what segment, T5 to T9, they are originating from the spinal cord, and then the preganglionic sympathetic nerve synapses into the celiac ganglion, and then from the celiac ganglion, this is called the post-synaptic sympathetic. It innervates the kidneys. Okay, now what's the function of this sympathetic? Actually, when the sympathetic has been activated, it increases many functions of the kidneys. It will increase absorption of sodium. It will increase production of renin. Okay. So it's just important to know that when the sympathetic has been activated, it increases the secretion of renin. It increases the reabsorption of sodium. Okay, so this is where we end. We have been looking at the kidney structure and the overview of the kidneys. We say the kidneys are retroperitoneal organs. Okay, and then we've looked at the overview of the kidney functions. We've said that the kidneys play a very important role in homeostasis. That is regulating every electrolyte in the blood, regulating the water levels, and also say that it secretes hormones. Okay, so we end here. Thank you.